I'm Elise. There are many different kinds of plants and animals on Earth, but usually only certain kinds are found at a particular place. For example, a cactus is usually found in the desert, polar bears are found in the Arctic, and tigers are found in India. These animals are found in these places because they are adapted to living in particular conditions and climate. Adaptation means that a plant or animal has developed the characteristics it needs to live in a certain area. Polar bears have heavy fur to help them withstand freezing cold weather. It would be impossible for them to live in a desert. Different types of areas, such as a desert or rainforest, are called biomes. Today we're going to look at the different types of biomes on Earth. A biome is an ecological community that has certain types of plant and animal life. Every place on Earth is the home of some sort of plant and animal life, but there are great differences in the amount and types of plants and animals that live in different regions. Sand dunes support very little plant or animal life. A temperate rainforest has many different types of plants and animals. Tide pools along the ocean coastline have an incredible amount of life forms, none of which could live in a temperate rainforest. In order for life to exist, 4 basic conditions have to be present. First, nutrients such as carbon, nitrogen, and calcium needed to make living cells have to be available. Plants get their nutrients from the soil and the atmosphere. Animals obtain theirs by eating plants or other animals. Secondly, energy has to be available to change the nutrients into living tissue. Plants obtain energy from the sun and convert it to chemical energy through a chemical reaction called photosynthesis. Animals get energy from the stored chemical energy in plants or other animals they eat. The third factor necessary for life is water. The cells of all living organisms are made up largely of water. None of the chemical reactions I just mentioned will occur without water. Without water, life cannot exist. The fourth and final condition for life is a range of temperatures in which these chemical reactions can occur. Different regions on Earth vary greatly as to the availability of the 4 requirements for life. If one of the requirements is scarce in a particular region, life will be scarce. On the other hand, if a region has a large amount of the requirements for life, life will be plentiful. In most regions of the world, the 4 necessities for life are unevenly distributed. This causes plants and animals to adapt so they can survive in the area they live in. Climate is one of the major factors that affects the environment of a region. The climate of a place is the average temperature, wind speed, humidity, and precipitation that occur there. For any biome, the climate is determined by such things as its latitude, elevation, topography, and nearness to mountains and oceans. First, let's look at latitude. Latitude is the distance a place is north or south of the equator. This distance is measured in degrees. The equator has latitude of 0 degrees. Near the equator, the sun's rays shine almost straight down on the Earth's surface. In regions north or south of the equator, the sun's rays strike the Earth at an angle. This means the intensity is not as great as at the equator. The higher a location's latitude, the less solar energy it receives during the year. At 90 degrees, the north and south poles have the highest latitudes and are constantly covered with ice. Latitude not only relates to the amount of solar energy an area receives, but also to its average rainfall. At the equator, hot air saturated with moisture rises from the surface. As it rises, the air cools and the moisture condenses and falls to the Earth as rain. For this reason, the regions around the equator are not only the warmest, but also the wettest on Earth. The cool, dry air left behind after the tropical rains fall is carried either north or south, where it is reheated by the sunlight reflecting off the Earth's surface. This makes an area with extremely hot, dry air. The great deserts of the Earth, such as the Sahara and the Mojave, are the result of this type of activity. Elevation of the land also plays a major role in the climate of a biome. As the elevation above sea level increases, the atmosphere becomes thinner. Thinner air can't retain as much heat as denser air, and the temperature drops. Snow often remains on parts of the Rocky Mountains throughout the entire summer because of the cooler temperature caused by the higher elevation. Another role that mountains play in affecting the environment of biomes near to them is their rainfall patterns. As water-filled air meets a mountain, it is forced to rise and it cools. The water in the air then condenses and falls to earth as rain or snow on that side of the mountain. The now dry air is warmed as it travels down the other side of the mountain. This air absorbs water from the low lands below, which creates a very dry climate. This explains why the Rocky Mountains and the Sierra Nevada mountains receive hundreds of inches of precipitation each year, while the low-lying areas below them receive very little rain or snow. Nearness to the ocean also affects the climate of a region. Since ocean water cools or warms up more slowly than the adjacent land, coastal regions tend to have much less variation between day and night temperatures than the inland regions. For example, the average difference between the daily high and low temperatures in the Olympic rainforest on Washington's Pacific coast is only about 6 degrees Celsius. But down in California, the Mojave Desert can have temperature swings of 18 degrees Celsius or more between day and night. Ocean currents can also make a coastal area colder or warmer than it normally would be. For example, since ocean currents of cold Arctic water flow down the western coast of the United States, San Francisco has lower temperatures than would be expected for its latitude. On the other hand, the British Isles are warmer than would be expected because the Gulf Stream brings warm water up from the equator. 7 major types of biomes have developed around the Earth, depending on the amount of the 4 requirements for life in an area. Now let's look at the environmental characteristics of each one of the different types of biomes. First, the tundra. Tundra is the Earth's youngest biome. It is a treeless plain found in Arctic and subarctic regions. Tundra can look barren because there are no trees, but the ground is covered with mosses, herbs, lichens, and dwarf shrubs. There are 2 types of tundra, Arctic and alpine. The Arctic tundra circles the North Pole above the Arctic Circle. Below the thin layer of soil is permanently frozen ground called permafrost. Winters are long, cold, and dark. Summers are short and cool with lots of sunlight. Because of the permafrost, in summer water can't drain into the ground, so it collects in ponds and wetlands. During the summer, migratory birds like geese fly into the Arctic tundra to raise their young. During this time of year, caribou and reindeer graze on the plants. Alpine tundra is found at the top of the tall mountains above the tree line. It too is treeless and cold like Arctic tundra. Bighorn sheep and mountain goats graze in the alpine tundra. The vegetation also feeds small mammals. The next biome is the coniferous forest. They are found just below the timberline in the world's great mountain ranges and south of the Arctic Circle in Canada and the northern United States. Generally, these forests grow where there are long winters and moderate to high rainfall. Fir, spruce, and pine are the main types of trees in these forests. They are often referred to as evergreens. Evergreens have adapted to living in an area where the winters are cold and have little usable moisture. Usually, there is a very short growing season in the summer. Most evergreens are shaped like a cone and have flexible branches that won't allow snow to pile up on them. This keeps the branches from breaking under the weight of the snow that falls during heavy storms. The waxy coating and small surface area of their needles helps to reduce the loss of water through evaporation. This is important because throughout the winter there is no water available except in the form of snow or ice, which they can't use for respiration. A number of different species of animals live in the coniferous forests. Caribou and bighorn sheep that graze on tundra areas during the summer often migrate into the forest during the winter. Other large grazing mammals, such as moose, deer, and elk, also live there. The major predators are mountain lions, bears, wolves, and foxes. Moving further south, the climate becomes warmer, and there is more light available for photosynthesis. As a result, both plant and animal life become more plentiful. These areas are covered with temperate rainforests. There are 2 types of temperate forests, deciduous forests and rainforests. In a deciduous forest, the trees have broad leaves that can capture more sunlight than the narrow leaves of evergreens. However, during the winter when the temperature drops below freezing, the deciduous trees drop their leaves and go into a state of inactivity called dormancy. The decaying leaf litter on the forest floor provides a great place for bacteria, earthworms, and fungi to live. A variety of animals, including deer, mice, shrews, squirrels, raccoons, and many species of birds, live in these forests. In the early spring, before the trees block off the sunlight, wildflowers often cover the floor of the forest. There are two types of rainforests, tropical and temperate. Tropical rainforests are located near the equator. 57% of all the world's tropical rainforests are found in South America. Other tropical rainforests are located in Southeast Asia, the Pacific Islands, and West Africa. Approximately one-half of the world's plant and animal species live in the tropical rainforests of the world. They are believed to be home to at least 5 million different species. Rainfall varies from 254 to 404 centimeters annually, and temperatures average between 26 and 32 degrees Celsius. Many tropical rainforests have 3 layers of vegetation. The tallest trees reach up to 46 meters. Below them, at about 30 meters, are the tops of another layer of trees. Below these trees is still another layer of trees and climbing vines. Practically no light can reach the forest floor through all these thick layers of vegetation. The plants that do live there often have huge leaves to trap the little available light. Because there are very few edible plants near the ground, much of the animal life in a tropical rainforest live in the trees. It is arboreal. These species include monkeys, parrots, snakes, lizards, frogs, and a huge variety of insects. There is a great deal of competition for nutrients among both plants and animals. As bacteria and fungi release nutrients they get from dead organisms, they are absorbed almost immediately by trees and vines to fuel their growth. The other type of rainforest is the temperate rainforest. They only occur near the ocean, where the coastal weather provides even temperatures and a large amount of rain. The temperature seldom, if ever, reaches freezing. Examples of a temperate rainforest occurs along the Pacific coast from Washington to Alaska. Because these forests are located at higher latitudes, sunlight is often scarce, and evergreens are the dominant types of trees. Some sunlight reaches the floor of the forest, which helps support the growth of moss, ferns, and various types of lichen. Many types of fungi also grow in the moist, decaying vegetation on the forest floor. Animal life, such as deer, is plentiful. So are snails, slugs, and a variety of insects. In complete contrast to rainforests are deserts. Deserts are found on every continent, usually at a latitude of between 20 to 30 degrees north or south of the equator. Deserts like the Sahara Desert represent the most extreme desert climates. In these places, it practically never rains, and there is no vegetation. However, most deserts have large areas of bare ground followed by thin vegetation. The plants are often spaced evenly, as if planted by a person. Typical plants are bushes or cacti that have large, shallow root systems. The shallow roots can quickly soak up water from a desert rainstorm. The leaves and stems of these plants have a waxy coating to prevent vital water from evaporating. The desert plants often have other unique adaptations to allow them to survive. The stems of this cactus plant expand rapidly to allow it to store large amounts of water quickly. The plant can then use the water later as it needs it. In order to protect the stored water from thirsty desert animals, the cactus has evolved sharp, needle-like spines to keep animals from reaching the water. The animals of the desert have also adapted to survive on very little water. For example, reptiles have thick, scaly skin that slows the evaporation of water from their bodies. Small desert mammals like this kangaroo rat are so efficient at using and storing the water they get from eating plants. They can live their entire life without drinking water at all. Some larger mammals, like the desert bighorn sheep, depend on permanent water holes in order to get the water they need. Most desert animals are nocturnal, which means they sleep during the day and are active at night. This lets them avoid the tremendous heat of the day by staying in underground burrows. There is only one more type of land biome left to talk about, The grasslands. Grasslands are vast areas of open land covered with grasses or grass-like plants. Grassland biomes receive more rainfall than desert biomes. This moisture allows a variety of grasses to grow, but there isn't enough rainfall for larger plants, such as trees. In a grassland area, trees are usually only found along the banks of a stream or river. At one time, the North American grassland stretched across almost half the continent, from the tall grass prairies of Iowa and Illinois to the short grass prairies of eastern Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. Today, there is very little natural grassland in the United States. The majority of the tall grasslands have been converted to growing crops, such as wheat and corn. Most of the short grass prairies are used to raise large animals such as cattle and horses for commercial purposes. In the natural short grass prairies that remain, herds of wild animals such as bison and antelope can still be found. In addition, there are smaller animals such as prairie dogs and diamondback rattlesnakes. A unique type of grassland called a savanna covers much of the African continent. Savannas receive most of their annual rainfall in one short rainy season, with the rest of the year being bone dry. Certain trees that are capable of storing water live in scattered clusters across the savanna. But the highlight of the African savanna are the large plant-eating animals such as elephants, rhinoceros, zebras, and giraffes that graze here. And the meat eaters such as lions, leopards, and hyenas that prey on them. In addition to the land biomes, the Earth is also home to different aquatic biomes. There are two main types of aquatic biomes, marine and freshwater. Ocean marine biomes cover nearly 71% of the Earth's surface. There are four major types of ocean biomes: coastal waters, coral reefs, open ocean, and vent communities. The coastal waters surrounding the continents have a tremendous variety of plant and animal life. The shallow waters allow them to get sunlight, and freshwater runoff from the land brings many nutrients into the coastal seawater. Areas of land that are covered and uncovered by the ocean due to the rising and falling of the tides are home to animal life such as crabs, sea anemones, and sea urchins, as well as larger animals such as seals and sea lions. These areas are called intertidal zones. Just beyond the intertidal zone lies the near-shore zone. The near-shore zone is always covered with seawater, but is shallow enough to allow plants, such as these huge brown kelp, to anchor to the ocean floor and still reach the surface. These kelp forests provide a home for fish, seabirds, and mammals. Coral reefs are a type of marine biome only found in warm tropical waters. They are created by the skeletons of various species of coral and algae building up from the ocean bottom. They provide a home for a wide and colorful variety of marine life, from invertebrates, such as sponges and sea anemones, to hundreds of species of fish. Out in the open ocean, it's too deep for plant life to anchor to the ocean floor and still get sunlight. As a result, the main food source in an open ocean biome are single-celled phytoplankton. Phytoplankton are free-floating, microscopically small algae. They are at the bottom of the ocean's food chain. The open ocean is also populated by a group of minute animals called zooplankton. The zooplankton feed on the phytoplankton, which in turn are consumed by small fish and sea mammals, such as the humpback whale. Larger fish and mammals also live in the open ocean and feed on smaller fish. The Earth's crust is made up of 12 solid plates, known as tectonic plates. Where two of these plates come together, hydrothermal vents can emit jets of hot water loaded with minerals and bacteria. In 1977, geologists exploring the Galapagos Rift discovered a vent at a depth of over 1.5 miles below the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. In the water around the vent, they found a unique type of marine biome called vent communities. Because of their depth, they are totally dark, and there are no photosynthetic organisms to form the bottom of the food chain. The bottom of the vent community's food chain are sulfur bacteria that obtain their energy from the hydrogen sulfide from the deep sea vents. Very unique organisms live here, including 12-foot-long tube worms and other animals such as blind white crabs, white clams, and enormous mussels. Many scientists believe that there may be other equally unique communities to be discovered below the ocean's surface. The other type of aquatic biome is the freshwater biome. Their composition is dependent on runoff water from the land. This runoff creates streams, rivers, ponds, and lakes. The environment of a freshwater biome is also influenced by the speed of the water flow and the surrounding climate. Any one of the Earth's biomes can be disturbed and even destroyed by the actions of humankind. These actions can be accident or deliberate. Sulfur-carrying smoke put out by coal-burning power plants have destroyed both aquatic and forest habitats by helping cause acid rain to fall. Years ago, the forests and grasslands of the American Midwest were destroyed to make farmland for farmers. Today, a similar type of destruction is going on in the rainforests of South America. Some people say that turning the forests and grasslands of the United States into farms was a very positive thing for America. Can the same be said about the cutting and burning of the rainforests in South America? Finding the answer to questions like this may turn out to be critical to the survival of our planet. What do you think?